2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, welcome to Access Now on Location. This is Dustin Wilson. I'm your host today, and we're going to do some art. We're going to have some fun, and today we're going to do a nice little sunset, maybe a little cabin over here. We're going to have a bit of a lake on the bottom, and so we're going to have some fun with this one. So there's a couple ways you can do a sunset if you're trying to do your painting. You can always start in the middle and work your way with the light colors up, which is a really nice way to blend it because you're not too worried about pulling your blacks or your darks down and muddying up the colors below. So what I want to do, I'm going to start from the middle. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of white. And remember, so this is going to be one with a lake on the bottom. So it's going to have a reflection down below and up top. So once we have our ground decided where we want it to be, we'll start the reflection up top and below, and it'll be obviously mirrored of what is going on. So we're going to start right in the middle, and I'm just going to start with a little bit of white. And so once I have my white on, once I have my white on there, you might not see it very well, but I'm going to put about an inch of white just above the halfway point. And I want to start my, oh, look at that. You're like, oh no, I've ruined it. I got black in there. Now, I got black in there because I had previously wanted to start this painting from the top down, but I changed my mind, so that's okay. Here's the cool thing about paint. You can paint over it. And look, what looked like black before is just a mild white. See how easy that was? Blend, blend, blend. The more you blend, the better. So how we're going to do it in layers is when we're going to blend, what we want to do is we want to take the color below and mix it with that next color. So I'm going to mix a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow to get us a nice yellow. And I'm going to go just above where my white ended. And I'm not going to do a lot of the light yellow. I want to get right into maybe the orange, a little bit of the red, because I want that top to be kind of a dark red, almost a black, right? And again, I still got some of that black coming in, but you know what? It's okay. It's just going to look like horizontal clouds, little faint ones that are there. But again, yellow and white together here. And I'm going to do a couple layers of that. And right now you can't really see it, but when you go across your painting, when you have your color on there, sometimes you're going to lift up your brush in the middle and you'll see a brush stroke there. Now I don't know how well you can see that. Hopefully you can see that on there. But you'll have a brush stroke there, and we don't want that. So left to right all the way across. Left to right all the way across. And yes, I'm going down into that white. White is just a starting point, and you can fix your sunset however you want. You can make it really bright. You can make it really dull. So next I'm going to go into straight yellow. So I already did my yellow and white. So now we're on straight yellow. Have a little bit down there. That's okay. And I'm going to start blending that down, because I want a little more yellow down further. So I'm going to blend back and forth and blend down into my white. Down into my white. We'll have some mountains in the background, maybe not some snow-capped ones, but we'll have some nice summer mountains. Just shadows of them, if anything, or silhouettes of them. And because it's a nice sunny day, they're not going to be a black. They're going to be more of an orangish or burnt orange color. And that'll help. So I did yellow. So now what I'm going to do, and I might not get the best orange, so maybe I have to create an orange. Or maybe you have to buy an orange, sorry, that you really like if you like an orange. Sometimes some of these colors don't come together. And guess what? These colors that we're using, we're using black, red, yellow, white, and green just kind of like an olive green, simple. But here's the deal. Some of these paints don't always mix well together when they're cheap. But I do it so it's cheap so everybody can afford it. I want everybody to be able to paint, right? And not have to stress about finances or anything like that, because in reality, you can create amazing art for a cheap price. I have done art that I have sold for $500-600. I know it's not the big rich $10,000 ones that are out there, but I have done some pretty awesome realism stuff that I have sold for, you know, $500, $600, $700 using $2 paintbrushes. And I do that to show that it's not always about the material that you have. It's just use what you got. Learn how to use what you got. The quality, obviously a canvas is going to be a little bit different. The more you put into a canvas, the better quality it's going to be. Look at the back of the canvas. And the back of the canvas, usually the darker the color, the more valuable or expensive the material is, or better quality the material is. All right, so I like that orange. It works for me. So I'm gonna go now into like an orange and red together. And again, we're not gonna get a whole bunch of that, just solid red. We'll see how far down I blend this. Key is, get your paint on there, go left to right all the way across, and I hope you can see it, but it'll smoothen it right out so that you're able to get a nice look at what we got going on here. So I'm gonna get this red on here. And then I'll mix red and black together. That's the final topping on the cake, so to speak. So straight red right now. Again, I get my stuff from either Michael's or the dollar store. And I do it because I teach a lot of paint nights. And you want stuff that's good, it's gonna hold over, but yet, you know, where people when they're painting, that they're not worried about, is it gonna stay on? Is it gonna look bad? Is it gonna look watery? Is it, you know? Obviously, you could go spend a little extra money and get some nicer paints. Really good set of, I mean, Artist Loft is what I use. Simple. But you can get some thicker versions, better quality versions of it, like $20 for like maybe a 24-ounce bottle or something like that, which kind of seems a little expensive, but I mean, you get a lot of paintings out of that, so don't even think of it that way, right? You can get a lot of paintings out of one bottle. I mean, if you're doing just paintings yourself, you're going to get a lot of paintings out of that. Now, I teach paint classes, you know, paint nights and stuff like that, and so you have to really consider what's best value, but still not going to be so cheap that people are going to be dissatisfied with what they're painting and think they're painting cheap quality stuff, right? So far, I don't mind that. I almost want to bring it down a little bit, but I might leave that as is. Now, you can make it really easy, and you can flip this over, and you can do a totally different sunset on the other side. Say you weren't happy with how far down your sunset is, and you want to make sure that it's, you know, maybe a nice thicker on top or something like that. Flip your canvas around and do it the opposite way. So I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to clean my brush. And now there's a lot of people that when they clean their brush, they're just going to tap it. And it's not going to do a good job of cleaning your brush. You want to really push that in the bottom of the water cup, whatever you're using, and hit it fairly good till it's clean. So now I'm going to go in, just put that little bit more white just below. Now I'm going to leave a bit of a gap because we're going to put some land in there, and then below the land we're going to put a little bit of a lake. So we can do this now so that when it comes time to painting that part, it'll be dry. So I'm just touching a little bit of yellow and white together, and we're just going to start here. And just get a little bit of a streak there. Maybe in the bottom you're not seeing as much as the bottom of the sky, so maybe you're doing more towards the orange right away. That's totally up to you. But I'm going to go straight into yellow pretty quick. just like that. And again, we want to get rid of any lines in there. We don't want those lines to stand out, right? We want those lines to be faded so that when someone looks at them, it's like they know it's a fade instead of just weird straight lines across the sky. So the more you go over that part of the painting, the more it's going to soften, the more it's going to blend. And again, I do acrylics for a reason. There's so many artists on there, online, all over the place, that are phenomenal artists that that use oil and all that type of stuff. And oil is awesome. I use oil for a lot of paintings. Not as many as I have lately because I've been doing so many more classes. And you want to make sure that you're using something that's simple, affordable. Oil gets expensive. Oil gets expensive, but you use a lot less in your painting. You can go a lot further with your oil than you can with acrylic. But I do acrylic because everybody can grab it. Go down to the dollar store, grab some acrylic, or wherever you're from. Find a place where you can go something. Now, I will say, test out the different types of acrylic from different places, because honestly, there's some places where some colors just work better. For instance, there's some at the dollar store that work better than what I would get at Michael's. It just seems to be nicer paint. So that's what you want. Find the nice paint, right? So I'm going to put a lot more red on the bottom, I think, to capture more of the upper sky. Then maybe a little bit more black. Again, I'm blending. If you notice, I'm blending across first without cutting up into the yellow or to the orange, because I want to make sure that my red's established. And then when I start bringing it up, I can even go back into that orange, pull it on, and it's going to mix better and fill in that gap so it doesn't look like straight lines across. If I just left it there, it'd be like, oh, that kind of doesn't look that good for fades, right? But again, the more you go back and forth, I see so many people give up on their paintings just way too early. Now, I've noticed that already it's starting to dry, so that's pretty fast. So if it's starting to dry that fast, you can always take a little bit of water and start to put a little bit of water in it, and it'll smoothen it up just a bit so it doesn't start wrinkling your paint or anything like that. I know it's kind of weird to think wrinkled paint, but once it starts drying, it makes it difficult. That's why when I'm teaching, I tell people that they need to put a lot of paint on their canvas. Now, don't soak it so it's like you got clumps and clumps, but put enough on that you're going to have a nice spread, and you don't have to get little chunks through it of the white. And I'm going to move my canvas back just a hair so I can get that bottom. Now I'm going to go black with a touch of red, more black than anything. Man, because I want a dark, almost like a dark burgundy. Not quite black. Who knows? Maybe in just a minute I'll decide that I want to go darker, but I want to kind of match the top. I know that if you do a really dark black sunset, that it does add that dramatic effect. So just because I see it drying just a bit, again, I'm going to take a little bit of water. Let's see if I can smoothen that out. Seems to be working a little bit. Enough that we're good anyway. I think I'm happy with that right there. That looks pretty nice. Now, just because I'm going to go and take a little bit of black, we're going to get just a hair of maybe some, no, we'll go red and black, just a touch of red and black together again. We're going to go up here and we're just going to, actually just a second here, I just want to make sure that everyone can see it properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just some minor cloud stuff up there. So touch that top and kind of get a little bit of that paint. Don't go with very much paint. You can really almost dry your brush off and use whatever's left over. And all we want to do is we want to just throw in some hints of some clouds. Just some little added effects, like there's some sort of clouds there. Just feathered ones in the sky. Nothing If you want, you can get really fancy and you can start shaping them a bit up and down. Just do your circles and just add a few little clouds up there. Nothing too much. We don't want to go too thick because I just want this just a beautiful sunset, right? Just a beautiful sunset. And again, if it's not going on smooth, dry that brush and then just put a touch of water on it. I know it sounds weird, but you're cleaning the brush is what you're doing. And then you're just, it'll smoothen that right out. And if you need to add some more orange in there to smooth it out a little more, nothing wrong with that. We're just adding some hints of we can reshape it or we can soften it by going over with that color. I'm not too worried about it. We're going to have some trees come up and fill that area up. But it's just enough to make it feel like there's something there for sky, for clouds. All right. Just touching up that top a little bit. Again, if it was on the bottom, it'd be a lot easier because I came back and did it. Now you can, if you want to put a little bit of cloud maybe down towards the bottom, you could go back into your yellow and add just a touch of orange. And that usually will be enough to make some simple clouds in there maybe, to where they kind of stand out. So I'm just going to go left to right and then do a couple little circles. And then if you want to even dry the brush after you throw a couple on there, you can dry the brush and go back and forth over top and it'll soften it a little bit. It's not quite the same again as oil because it's such a strong thick paint that you could go over top and it just feathers that stuff right out. And that's how, you know, Bob Ross and all them guys, there's some really good painters out there that just get that really soft looking clouds. Now if you really don't like that and you're really desperate, you can always start where you were with your yellow. And you can just go fill it in just a little bit more again. Just hit it up a little bit more. And that's fine. I don't need it to be perfect. But it just has the feel like there's some clouds in the sky. Not a whole lot, but I think we're good to go there. So now, I want to shape out some hills because we're in a valley. I want to make this a nice valley with a lake at the end of the valley. Now there's a couple cool places here in Saskatchewan that are like that, but I'm from BC and I love those valleys, those ranch lands where at the end you got like beautiful little cabin and and a nice little lake by it, and you know sometimes it's just a dream to think about beautiful places like that, and that's where you'd want to spend your sunsets, right? But these hills, so we're going to make them almost kind of like a U, but I made the orange. So you don't have to be perfect on this. We're just cutting across, and we'll cut back up on the other side. We're going to bring that right down. Bring it right down. I'm going to get darker here soon because we're going to put another layer up front. Remember, these are distant hills, and now I might have to pull them up a little bit. We'll see how the painting goes here. Again, left to right. Keep the flow of your paint so that you don't have to worry about those brush marks, because every time you do this, you're going to have, see, lift off, you're going to have brush marks, and that's just the way it goes, right? So we want to make sure that there's no brush marks in our painting that are obvious or unintentional, you know. Left to right, kind of like that. I might go a little bit, I'm going to add the slightest touch of black. Yeah, it's going to give it more of a yellowish, bronzy color. more than the orange. There's a little bit there, but it doesn't matter. How does that look? It looks all right. Looks all right. Am I 100% sold on it? I don't think so. Now, I may have to add just a touch more yellow. I kind of want the mountains a touch darker. If I do that, it means I have to add a touch more black to it. Okay, we're gonna try it again. Again, we did the orange, but I added just a touch more black. No, that's not quite there, just a touch more black. Touch more. Yeah, and now I'm gonna pull these clouds. Actually, I wanted to pull them up a little bit higher. So even if you just do the top edge of them, it just still gives a feel of some shadows on those hills. There we go. There we go. Yeah, see from a distance, that's going to look nice. Now, I could have gone a little more orangey, but I'm okay with that. This is not, you don't have to be perfect. We're going to do one more level of that. So I'm going to add a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow together, just to be a little more on that stronger orangey side as we made there. So I want it stronger than what's in there already. And this will be a set of rolling hills maybe. And it's going to come a little bit lower. Cut up just on the other side there. I might even have to add a little more black to that, you know. I think I do. And again, I'm using cheap $2 brush, $2 tray, just to show everybody what's doable, right? So now, with our skyline or our mountains or hills or anything that we're doing here, just remember, you always want your darker details for last. That'll make the foreground stand out and it'll give it that depth perception. If you make it all dark back there, you're going to lose the illusion of depth. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that we know our depth here. So don't go too thick either with your paint in the areas that you know you want to cover up right away. Now, if you feel you have time that you can take and reshape after it's dried a bit, that's fine. No issues there. You'll be good and golden there. So I'm going to clean my brush out. I want to do one more layer. But before I do that one more layer, we're just going to add on some distant trees. And these are really easy to do. All we're going to do is take our brush, keep sliding it down to keep it nice and thin, but it's adding paint to it. It's adding paint to it. Slide it down nice and thin, it's adding paint, right? I want to use that thin edge, right? See that? That thin edge. And all we're going to do is we're going to just tap with that edge, kind of going up and down as we go. Keep adding more paint. Just on that second layer. I don't think we need to do it on the far back layer because that hill's way back there, right? Don't have to make it so high that it covers up that background. You can make a couple tall trees. It's not perfectly uniform out there when you're looking at trees. There's some tall, some short, some further away, some closer. So what we need to do is just make sure that it's in balance. It's in balance with nature. The way it's created. Now, if you find that it's not going on very good, there's two things you can do. You can make it just a hint darker or add more paint. I guess there's a couple things, right? I'm just adding a bit more paint. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm going to cover some of this stuff up anyway with trees, so I'm not worried about that. So this is just some background stuff just to show that there's some some distant trees. And I think that's enough to show that there is right there. So keep it clean. Remember, keep your brush clean. If you want it to stand out even more, let it dry. Just let it dry. I'm gonna clean my brush out one more time now. Now, slowly move ourselves in some darker colors. Make sure you dry your brush really good. A lot of people don't dry their brush that good and they get previous colors on it. And if you're overly concerned and don't know how to fix that type of stuff, then it's just best to dry your brush and clean it as good as you possibly can and do it right. Okay, so we got that. We're gonna do one more layer. I kind of want to do it in black because we're getting close to the front. This one's going to be hills coming down through the valley, across. Now, again, if you're wanting to make it stand out right away, if you don't put lots of paint on it, wait for it to dry. It takes 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes for it to dry. Now, for this painting, normally I would take that 5 minutes, let it dry. If I'm teaching a class, I'd take 5 minutes, let it dry. But I'm on a time crunch. I have an hour to get this painting done from the time I started. So, mistakes are limited. Mistakes are limited. So I want to make sure that we do it right. I do it right. And we get this done proper the first time. Again, that's what I love about painting. Even if I came and I made some mistakes of what I thought that maybe it shouldn't be there, I'm going to cut a little bit into here and start to bring it down and around the top of the lake. But if you make your mistakes, you can always touch it up after. Always touch it up. This is all just to get people a good start on where they should be going with their painting. Give them some techniques. Maybe one of these shows I'll get into doing different types of techniques on trees. Or maybe show how to do different types of clouds or something. So, now that we're at the bottom and we're seeing the lake, right? We're seeing the lake start to form. Here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we see the roundness of the lake so it's symmetrical with what you see with your eye. A lot of people just do a little circle down here. It's rare you're gonna see any kind of weird form like that. Mostly it's gonna be ovalish out. You wanna work your way out and then a little bit of curvature. So I'm just kind of shaping it and I'm gonna fill it in and then I'm gonna decide where I wanna put. Like I can add more ground if I find that it's not wide enough over here to add stuff like trees and whatever. And then I want to add a little cabin and then maybe a dock. I think that's kind of what I'm going for here. We want to add a dock. There's just something about a cabin, a dock, and a lake. And they just look so good together. Now you can see that it's starting to take shape here, right? So I'm liking where we're going with it. Now, here's what we got to do. We got to fill in this background a little bit. So I'm going to go into not a very dark, you know what, nah, that's okay, we can do it. So I'm cleaning my brush because I need to put a little bit of green on there. I got green here for a reason. Now, I'm going to go light green. So what I want to do is I want to squish my bristles down. Where are we here? I'm gonna do that. I want to squish it down on it. Just getting paint on the tips, but that's so the bristles are kind of bent around. So you want to have a little bit of that. And what that's going to do is when you tap it on, it's going to leave almost like a feel of grass. Now if it's not bushy enough, maybe you just need to let it dry first, because it does go, I'm not gonna lie, it does go on a lot easier and a lot smoother if it's dry. But for me right now, I'm not overly worried about that. I'm just trying to get something accomplished here. The background's not that important to me. You can always cover it up if it's that bad. And we'll throw some trees on here too. Now, the other thing to do is at least do this so you have an idea of where you want it all to be. And then you can always come back, and once it's dry, do one more layer. And if you do that one more layer, that green will pop. But don't cover it up so much that you can't see shadows. That's the reason why we do our dark colors there. And then we hit it with some highlights, some highlighted grass or whatever it might be, because we want to see those shadows pop. Right? When we're doing our trees, we start with the black because we want to see our shadows pop afterwards. If they're not popping, your picture's not popping. We want to make sure your picture pops. So I'm not going to go crazy on this stuff. Fill it in a little bit more because I want to get some trees going in there. You know what? I'm going to add just a touch of yellow. Now, there's two things you can do. If you add yellow to your green, you can make a little bit brighter version of that green. And the other way to do it is obviously white. White will make that grass pop even more, right? And but I want to add a little bit of yellow and green together. See if I can make a few extra little highlighted colors. We'll see if it pops. Maybe I have to go straight yellow over top just to kind of get the feel of what we're doing here. So you can kind of go on that ridge if you want with the yellow. It's okay if it sticks up over that ridge. Acrylics is very interesting when it comes to mixing. I would say the best is to stick with sometimes going with a straight color over top instead of mixing it together, like if you want the highlights of yellow. And it depends on how thick your yellow is of the acrylics you own. And again, this is all just background stuff. I'm not overly worried about it. Just add some cool little highlights along that ridge, right? Just some nice little highlights to make it look like the sun's just hitting it. After all, it is a beautiful sunset, correct? So, we're on the right track here. Now what I want to do, I'm not worried about how dark or how much shows up now. I just want something on there, filling up the rest of that black. We're going to paint over it with a cabin. We're going to start hitting it with our trees, but at least there's something there to make it look like there's something besides just blackness all of a sudden. Again, lines, right? So, just dabbing it. I don't know if you can see that, but maybe some spots you want to add a little bit more highlight just to see if it stands out. But the rest is, we're just filling it in. Just so when we do our trees, you can see behind the trees that there's something there, right? Again, you can always retouch up after. Always retouch up after. See, look at that. The green's popping again. Maybe we'll get the yellow popping a little bit more lower in there. Right? You can even get funky. And add a little bit of red. Get some of those fall colors in there. Maybe some flowers in that field. Look at that. Maybe some beautiful flowers that are just... Because we're going to put a fence here, right? I want to put a fence across there. So, I think that's enough for now. Before I get the fence, I'll clean my brush one more time. We're going to get into that black again. Once we get into that black, what we're going to do is we're going to start pulling out, we're going to do some trees. We're going to do some small trees, some distant trees. We don't want to do big ones yet. We want the big ones saved for last, even though they are the scariest. Big trees are the scariest, right? Who wants to throw a big, huge tree in the middle of your painting? Not many people. So we can do it two ways. We can go straight black, or we can go black and green together, which I might do. I'm going to see what it looks like. In other words, it's going to be more of a gray, but it's going to have the green tinge. Just a hint when you see it in person. So here's how we're doing our trees. Thin brush, very thin. And what we want to do, I'm going to pull this up just a bit so we can all see. I want to start with, we'll do a couple over here. All I'm doing is I'm just doing a little bit of a line with that top edge, okay? Wish I could see it a little bit better, but I'm just using that little edge and I'm just making a line, and the further I go down, I'll push just a bit harder. Now I'm not doing big trees, so I don't really need to push that hard. I can do really thin trunks. It's not going to show through as much. We'll do a couple small ones over here, a couple side by sides. And again, don't always do them the same height. Get a little creative. Maybe one more here. And we could do one more up on the hill, but I have a feeling we're going to cover this guy up with a nice big tree. Okay. You know what? One more over here, just because if we cover it up and there's some space, maybe it'll show through. So now I'm taking the edge, okay? Taking the edge corner of my brush, and I'm just doing a zigzag pattern with that edge, that corner, right at that top left corner, right there. And I'm just tapping it, and I'm just going left to right as I go down. And I'm leaving a little bit of space for that branch to breathe so you can see some air through it. Okay? The further you go down, the wider you go out. The further you go down, the wider you go. Look at that. Look at that. The further you go down, the wider you go out and the harder you push. The harder you push. Don't just glob it on there. Because if you're globbing, it's going to cover those little gaps in the trees, and we need those gaps, right? We need those gaps to be able to be seen, so it gives that depth perception. All right. Fix these guys up. Just some low guppies. Maybe they're just over the edge of that hill. Sorry, I got to get this guy as well. Maybe put a little bit taller trunk on him. And these are just the easy trees to paint. There's so many cool trees out there that different styles that you can paint that you see in nature. But where I'm at, this is what we're seeing today. All right. A couple more trees. A couple more trees. They don't have to be perfect. And these ones, we don't have to put any highlights on them if we don't want. You can, but I just don't think it's really necessary with these guys to put much for highlights on there. We can just leave them like that, right? Nice little trees over that ridge. Who knows what's over there? Maybe there's a river, and maybe there's a town over that hill. We'll find out later. But for now, I think I like where we're at. We're going to move on to, I think we want to put a couple, we're going to put that, yes. We are going to put a nice little fence. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into that color that we had right there, a little bit of red. I'm just adding a touch of black, and I just want to make it stand out across there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some fence posts where I think it should be. It's going to come across. If it's not standing out enough, add a little bit more paint. Add a little more paint. It's going to work itself all the way across. It's going to go up that hill. And again, a lot of the stuff on the hill is going to get covered, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, we can really worry about our detail in that later if we have time and if we want. But for now, we're just going to put our top logs across. And because this is an old school fence, it's not going to be perfect. Someone did it by hand way before. There was perfect cutting tools, and you can even do one where there's one down and it's broken. Someone tried to climb over that. Maybe as an animal tried to jump over it. All right. one more. Maybe they got aggressive in this area and knocked the other one down too. Leave it like that, but that's fine by me. Now, what you can do, you can go into a little bit of white, add just a touch of white to that color, and you can just touch up some edges. It gives it a little more depth. Just marble that paint. You're not trying to repaint it. You're just trying to marble it, just to give it a little bit of depth, a little bit of realism, right? All right, here. See, that stands out. You can see it, right? Just that little bit more. Just that little bit more. Don't cover it all. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. Okay, so next thing what we're going to do is we're going to do, maybe we're going to pull that down just a little bit more. I'm not sure yet, but I want to do a cabin on the left side just so we have time to get that done. And then I'll just add a couple of big trees at the end maybe. Oh yeah, we're going to do a dock too, right? We promised a dock. So let's pull a little bit of that ground. I'm going to go back into the black. So I want this to dry when I kind of come back around. So I'm going to go down just a hair, not very far. Level it out a bit and pull over this. Pull it down just a hair. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want room for that cabin, right? And don't be afraid when you paint it like that and it's like, oh no, it doesn't look like it's gonna dry properly. You're gonna have all these things through it. It's just not gonna. It'll dry properly. Just make sure that if you have to do some little taps on there or something like that to kind of fill it and look like grass above it, when it dries, it'll look properly. So now over here on this side, I want to do one more thing. So you notice how there's on the bottom here, I don't know if you can see that. I'm just gonna make sure you can see with this other camera. If you can see that, there's holes coming through those. We can fill some of that in with some white to make it look like there's some water foam around there, but I'm gonna pull this around and out. Don't go and do, it's gotta look symmetrical and it's gonna follow the horizon line, right? So when you pull that little piece of land out, you want it to match your horizon line. And that's all we want on that side. We might pull a little bit down in the bottom, like there's the bottom of the, maybe it's a small little pond or, you know, but that's okay. I want that little piece of land to come out. Maybe it's not even land, maybe that's just, we'll do some shrubs in there. You can do cattails, whatever you want. Okay, so now that I got that shaped, I'm gonna shape out a nice little cabin right here. So which way should we do it? Let's do we're going into black, okay? I'm gonna go up just a little bit so you can make sure you can see this. We're going into black. It's just gonna be the front of a cabin. You're not gonna really see the whole thing, but you're gonna get the concept that it's there. So I wanna make sure we fill it in lightly. I don't wanna go thick, because when you get thick, you can't do your highlights on it, and you can't make it look as smooth as you want, or as detailed as you want. And then this guy is gonna go back on a bit of an angle. I'm gonna see if that's the right. And the reason I did it like this is because I want to be able to, if I have to angle it a little bit more and bring it out, I got room to do that, right? Okay, I'm gonna kind of brush it in a little bit. I like the looks of that. That's fine. I can work with that. I might have to pull out the lake a little bit more, or the pond. I want to have room for a nice little path. You know what? While we're at it, I'm just going to add the shape of a nice little dock. Why not? Add a nice little dock in there, right? Right? We want it to stand out. All right. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to fill in that cabin with a little bit different of highlights, like the brown that we did on the fence. Should work perfect. Don't have to go too crazy. Before I do that, I'm going to do a couple dock pillars. So we're going to go and do maybe some tops on the other side. We'll do 2 or 3. And on the bottom side, we'll do 1, 2, and 3. Leave it like that. That's enough. We'll do some highlights on it in just a bit. Make sure it looks a little more real. Okay, I'm going to jump into that red and yellow. So red and yellow together. And a little bit of green. And if you want, just a touch of white. And don't make it all just one flat color. Marble it. Because marbling is going to give the feel of wood. Now I could go really fancy and pull out some brown that I have, but I'm just using the colors that I got so you guys can do it too. Okay. Now it's not going to be perfect, but what we're going to do is we're going to create the place where we think the door should be. And that's going to be our edged wall. We'll just go left to right. And the reason why we're doing that is because when you build a cabin or build a home, left to right concept is usually how it's done. Keep going left to right, filling that gap up there. And now it already has the feel of wood, and I haven't even done hardly anything to it, right? Hardly anything, it's already got the feel of wood there. So, all right. And again, you can go fancier and take your brush and do your lines left to right. Fill it in how you want it, and you can make it a little more traditional. Right? So look at that. Perfect. Now, here's what we want to do. While I'm using this color, I'm going to go just a little bit lighter, because I don't think I need it for any more in that. I mean, you could do a little bit of highlights in there, right? You can always do the highlights. Don't do them all the same, right? If you find it's not working enough, blend it in a little bit more. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Okay. Now from there, at the front, I'm just going to put in a little path. Takes us down to the dock. Takes us down to the dock. And then we're going to end up getting some more grass there along that edge. And we'll maybe call that a painting. We'll see if that's about the place. Obviously, I want to do one more big tree. We still got a few minutes left. We're okay for now. Got about 10 minutes left, so. All right. I'm okay with that. Now, I'm going to clean my brush one more time. 2 reasons. Number 1, I didn't put any windows in on this yet, and I'm just going to take some black and I'm going to put in 2 little windows. Keep it super easy. We'll put 1 here. You might have to let it dry before you do that. That's okay. And 1 there. Simple, right? Simple. Okay, now, wash my brush one last time here. Well, not one last time, but one more time. And I'm going to go into that green. I'm going to do the same thing I did for the grass earlier. And now that it's drier on this side, we can put in a little bit more color. It's going to stand out just a little bit more. See? Now, I might clump it up too much. I don't want that. So here's what we're going to do. Push down a little harder. Now, I'll tell you how you can fix that. If you've done it so thick that it's just big clumps, just let it dry. Do the same thing as what we're doing here, but with black. And that's just going to re-shadow that area. Fill it in a little bit. I'm going to go in and I'm going to... Now, I could get fancy and we could do grass and stuff like that. It's the same concept. Spread the bristles. And all you're doing is a little bit of paint on there, not much. You don't want a whole bunch of paint on there, just the tiniest bit. Spread bristles. And all you have to do is you have to just flick up. See? Just flick up, and you're using those little bristles that are sticking out. Right? Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, all right, all right. Look at that. So now we're going to do that. A little bit, no, just a little bit of red to that. Just a touch of red. Marbled. Maybe I'll just fill that in along that edge. A little bit darker color, that's fine. Now, where we're going to do the grass part is right there for sure. Those shrubs there, they could be just in the water. Doesn't matter. This is just giving us something different, right? Oh, maybe some yellow in there. Nice. Maybe it's not every place, but just in a couple spots. Not every place, but a couple spots. Just filling in the shrubbery. And you can always make that lighter if you want that fence. You can go back in there and fix that up, right? Nothing wrong with that. Now, one thing I will do is I forgot that I did earlier with the cabin. I forgot that you can technically take your boards, go left to right along there. Your dock. Get that dock. Now, I'm going to do the edge as well. Right? That makes sense there. And where we draw that in. Nothing crazy, right? Nothing crazy. Keep it simple. And then what we want to do now, I'm going to maybe do a little slight white highlights in there as well, just to kind of like, maybe not that thick. That's too much. Too bold. Just to give it a feel that it's a lighter wood or older. The wood's getting older. Can always go back in there and you can do lines in there, whatever you want to do, that's fine. Right? You can do some of those poles. Highlight it up a little bit more. Right? Just little things to highlight your pictures. Okay, so I think we're okay with that. Now I'm going to just do the black of the cabin. All right, a couple little things and then we're going to be done, okay? First off, let's go into that green while we're here. Actually, I'm going to go into a little bit darker green first. So I'm adding just a touch of black to it. Yeah, there. Might even go a little bit darker. Yeah, just start with that. I'm just flicking up with those bristles as wide as I can get them. Not very high. Just enough so it kind of looks like some grass sitting there. Finishing up that area. Okay. Finishing up that area. And the reason why you do a darker color is so that you can go on there with the straight green after, and it'll give it some highlights. So it'll stand out more, right? It'll stand out more. Just put a little bit of yellow and red in there. It doesn't matter. See? It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't have to be perfect. But now it looks like there's a little bit more grass there. Last little bit of grass that we're going to do is along this front of here. Right? Just a little bit to kind of fill in those little areas. Side of the cabin and stuff like that. We just want to, maybe not that thick. Last little bit here. Right. Last little bit down there in the corner. Okay. Now, two things. We're going to do a tree because we love big trees. Right? We love big trees over there. And we're going to do this on the right side. We got two more things to do. We're going to do a big tree over here. I'm going to pull it all the way down to there. I want it sitting in there. One more time. Add some water if it's not going on thick, okay? Spread that bottom just a little bit. Spread that bottom just a little bit. Now, quickly go in. Same thing, left to right. Just little bursts of your brush taps on. Right? I don't want to go too wide, too far. Now, the reason again why we did that light color underneath, so when we do our black here, it's going to stand out. So further down I go, the more it's going to mix, the more I want to mix it. As in, like, push it down a little bit harder, maybe go over it a little bit more. Beautiful thick trees once we kind of get down further. That's okay. That's okay. Perfect. Nothing wrong with that at all right there. Doesn't have to be perfect. And all I'm going to do for this tree is I want to go and add a little bit of that green. So what we did, same thing. Just going to go over it one more time. Thin brush, corner, right? And just pick some spots I want to highlight to make it stand out just a little bit. Maybe on the left side more than the right. Why? Because maybe that's where the sun's hitting it a bit. Not a whole lot. Just enough to show that there's some definition in that tree. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, last little bit. Just in case I don't get time, clean your brush one last time. And we're gonna go into white, pure white. And what we're gonna do, thin brush, keep your brush nice and thin. And all we're gonna do is left to right, up and down. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. We're just going to put some foam, some kind of like, you know, it's like there's tiny little waves, even though, you know, pond you might not get waves, okay? That's very true. But if it's a little more, maybe someone's out there in a boat or it just came off. It just adds a nice little touch to it. Put it along the bottom of this area. Don't just put a straight line. Straight line is not going to look good. So I'm going to pull it up just a bit. And pull it out just a little past, see? Almost like it's a part of there. Now, last thing I want to do here is just under the edges of our poles. I'm going to go back and touch that one more time, finish off this coastline. And I think we about got ourselves a painting. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Maybe just a little bit more over here. All right, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully maybe one of these times you'll get to join in on the fun and let us know that you're painting and enjoying painting. And hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless. Enjoy. Bye for now. And I'll finish that off with my initials. Just a little DW in that corner. And we are out. Perfect. Bye for now.